Alright, Ronan MMA, welcome back to the channel. Now, UFC 292 takes place tomorrow evening. I could not be more excited. This is an incredible card, in my opinion, from top to bottom. We are here to preview, and I will be giving my picks for every single fight on the card. I will start with the first fight of the night, work my way up as per usual. I try to get through the earlier ones a little bit faster so I can spend a bit more time on the fights that everybody is truly excited for. Before we get into it, please like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Let us start with the first fight of the night, which is Karine Silva versus Marina Moroz. Okay, I'm going to be going with Karine Silva for this one. She only gets stuff done by finish, which I love to see from women's MMA. Okay, it's not very common. It's a little rare, but she's one of them. Okay, so she's got 8 KOs and 8 submissions, and she can do it everywhere. So she got a finish on her Contender Series, and then in both of her UFC fights thus far, which is also something that's rare, even for the men's side, when you get somebody who gets a spectacular finish over on the Contender Series, for them to come in and then consistently get them, it's not something that we typically see. Now, she got a sub over Poliana Botello and Ketlin Souza, so she's very, very skilled everywhere, but she does love to get shit done by submission. Marina Moroz, on the other hand, is coming off of a loss. She's got a few submissions on her record. However, not really at the UFC level. She's only gotten 2 finishes in the UFC. She's been here for 10 fights. This is actually a rematch. They fought back in 2014 when Karine Silva would have been only 20 years old, and Marine Moroz actually submitted her with an armbar. So I would imagine she's going to try and go back to that well, take Karine Silva down, and submit her. Whereas Karine Silva, in my opinion, has improved so much in these last 9 years that I don't think that's going to be an option for her. And I think that Karine Silva gets it done on the feet by TKO, because that is somewhere that Marina Moroz, in my opinion, is lacking. And if Karine Silva can kind of cancel out her ground game, they'll be stuck on the feet, and it'll be unfortunate for Marina Moroz. Now, moving on to Andrea Lee versus Natalia Silva. This one's a no-brainer for me. Natalia Silva's a minus 355, and she should be, to be fair. Okay, Andrea Lee is very inconsistent. She's a little longer in her career. She does not have a whole lot of pop on her shots. Like, she's not known for getting a ton of finishes. I kind of thought she should have gotten the nod against Macy Barber, but still, she is on a 2-fight skid, and before that, she had won 2 in a row, but only after another 3-fight skid. So, as I said, very inconsistent. Not a whole lot of pop on her shots. And I think that because Andrea Lee's game is primarily on the feet, and while she does have some technical abilities for a woman, she doesn't have enough pop on her shots to get Karine Silva off of her. And if Karine Silva wants to, she can submit her. Whereas Andrea Lee's ground game is a little bit slacking. I mean, she's got a couple submissions, I think, on her record, but not a ton. It's not her MO. She wants to stand. She wants to trade with you, even though, as I said, not a whole lot of pop on her shots. Natalia Silva has not lost in 6 years. She has looked phenomenal against some pretty decent girls in the UFC so far. 2 of her 3 wins in the UFC coming by finish. I think that Natalia Silva will be getting a second round TKO. I think she beats the brakes off of Andrea Silva. Body kicks, leg kicks, head kicks, straight shots, and in the second round finishes her off. Moving on up the card to Andre Petrosky versus Gerald Meerschaert. My bad, dude. Don't know what was going on there. Andre Petrosky's been out for almost a year. He's had a couple grappling matches, in between, however. So he's not like totally inactive. He is undefeated in the UFC so far, which he seems, he's either getting a TKO or a sub, but even when he gets the TKO, it's on the ground. Like, this guy wants to take you down. He wants to grapple with you. He will take, the opportunity to ground and pound you if it's there, or a submission, which could potentially, in my opinion, be an issue for him, because Gerald Meerschaert, I said it perfectly that time, dude, has the most submissions in middleweight history. He is phenomenal off of his back also. He likes to lock up guillotines, triangle chokes, things like this. His chin is a little iffy. He's a sizable underdog here, but I actually am going to go with Gerald Meerschaert, and the reason why. So, Andre Petrosky got submitted by Brian Battle on the Tough Series with a ninja choke, which is kind of a little iffy, right? Like a modified guillotine, essentially. It may be a testament to his submission defense. I know Brian Battle's a little taller, a little longer compared to some of these middleweights, but that's not really a choke that a dude as good as him, or seemingly as good as him on the ground, should be getting subbed by, okay? Especially since Brian Battle is primarily a striker. Andre Petrosky, he might just be all offense when it comes to that. So I'm going to be taking the underdog, as I said, Gerald Meerschaert, GM3, to get a submission here. I think he locks up something from the bottom, whether it be a guillotine, whether it be a triangle choke, whether he sweeps him with a Kimura and then is able to do something from top. But I don't know, man. Andre Petrosky honestly wasn't all that impressive to me in the season of Tough that he was on. He's been very inactive. The grappling matches that he has taken since, there's been a handful of them. He hasn't won them by submission. Like, he's winning them by decision. And I think he might have gotten one submission out of those maybe 3 or 4 grappling matches, and it was against I think it was against Daniel Rodriguez or somebody who is, or no, Eric Anders, who's not really a fucking grappler. Do you know what I mean? So you should be submitting that guy if you're a grappler, but you should also be submitting these other guys that you're, fighting against, but you're not. So I'm going to be going with GM3 here by submission. Moving up the card to Brad Katona versus Cody Gibson. All right, this is Katona's second attempt in the UFC. There's actually a lot of guys on this card where this is, in fact, their second shot at fighting and competing in the UFC. He went on a couple fight skid. To be fair, one of them was against MOROZ, so he's not losing to total bums, but Cody Gibson won his last one out by arm triangle. Outside of the UFC, obviously, as I just said, this is also his second shot. They are the Tough finale. The only problem I have, is that before that fight, he lost to Ray Borg, who, that is a sad fucking story, man. If you don't know Ray Borg, that dude just basically threw his career down the fucking toilet after getting armbarred by Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. Now, he did beat John Dodson before that, and there's a few recognizable wins on his record in his time outside the UFC. He fought Aljo in his fucking UFC debut way back in the day, which is nuts to think about. The dude lost to Manny Gamburian, Silva de Andrade. He's not losing to bums. He had a tough few fights in the UFC before getting cut. I think Cody Gibson, is going to find the finish. Brad Katona, first of all, is cringe as fuck, and that's coming from a Canadian. I know he trains in Ireland, but the dude's Canadian, and he calls himself a diva. What kind of grown man refers to themselves as a diva? Like, that is just weird. And dude is just like ultra autistic in the worst way. He doesn't get along with fucking anybody. Do you know what I mean? Regardless, I think Cody Gibson finds the finish. He's fought way better competition, has 11 finishes to 8 decisions, whereas Brad Katona is not really a finisher. Okay, he's just not, in my opinion. He's got, on his record, you see split decisions, majority decisions, some unanimous decisions. He doesn't have a whole lot of finishes, so I do think Gibson's going to find the finish on the mat by TKO. Gibson is a very good wrestler and can also, he possesses a lot of power. He's a big guy for that division, so I think he's going to find the finish over Brad Katona. Moving up the card to Austin Hubbard versus Kurt Holobaugh. Again, 2 more dudes who are getting a second shot in the UFC. Holobaugh lost to Raoni Barcelos, Shane Burgos, and Thiago Moises back his first time around. Now, those are decent guys, right? Barcelos is all right. He's a little older, but it was a while ago. Shane Burgos has taken a ton of damage and since left the UFC, gone to the PFL, if I'm not mistaken. And Thiago Moises is very fucking good. Okay, so he's not fighting bums. Hubbard lost some, won some, very inconsistent in the UFC. Both of these guys got 2 wins outside and are now back getting another shot. I will be going with Austin Hubbard. Neither of these guys have overly impressive records, right? Hubbard's 5 years younger, however, and at the lighter weight classes, that does seem to make a difference because they're just a little more spry. Their brain and their body, react to each other a little faster. And he's never been KO'd. And Holobaugh, he's got 7 KOs on his record. So as long as Austin Hubbard's chin can hold up, I think he should be able to get this done. He's a little underrated, man. The dude's good. He is a minus 180 here, so the odds makers agree with me to a certain extent. But yeah, I think Austin Hubbard gets the job done. Moving on up the card, too, Gregory Rodriguez, the RoboCop versus Dennis TUILUILIN. Okay, dude, TUILUILIN This is wild to me. So, RoboCop is a minus 355. And I mean, look, dude's a fucking savage. Most of his wins by KO, 7 KOs, 4 subs, only 2 decision victories. However, he's kind of like live by the CTE, die by the CTE, right? He's been KO'd 3 times, including his last time out, which, by the way, this is why I'm actually picking against him. Spoiler, I'm picking Dennis TUILUILIN. Dude was a minus 315 against that dude that he was fighting, who was like half a fucking foot shorter than him and was not even a good striker, just possessed power. Gregory Rodriguez does not necessarily have the best fight IQ. As I said, live by the CTE, die by the CTE. If he tags you, he's going to come at you full force, fucking no defense whatsoever. He had tagged fucking, I can't remember his name. I feel like his last name was Rodriguez. No, his last name wasn't fucking Rodriguez, dude. I can't remember what it was, but either way. Dude should not have lost that fight, right? RoboCop was tagging that guy on the feet consistently and allowed Buddy to find his chin, and he got slept like it was not good. So last time this dude was an over 3-1 favorite, which he's an even bigger favorite this time around, which is insane because if I'm not mistaken, Dennis TUILUILIN has never been KO'd. Let me read my notes here for just 1 second. No. I can't see if I put anything about that, but I can't remember, dude. I don't think TUILUILIN's actually been flatline KO'd. Yeah. Okay. Dennis TUILUILIN seems to have a little bit of an issue with grappling. However, that is how he does get finished. So if Gregory Rodriguez, RoboCop, decides he wants to implement some fight IQ, he could potentially take him down because what Brazilian doesn't know how to fucking grapple? But I do think that TUILUILIN's going to be able to find his chin. In my opinion, TUILUILIN is a more technical striker. Gregory Rodriguez possesses more power, but Dennis TUILUILIN does get some finishes. And I actually think that he's going to find a KO or TKO in the first round, tagging Gregory Rodriguez with something crazy. I don't know what the fucking odds are on that happening, but that is what I'm going with. Okay, Dennis TUILUILIN is underrated. He does have finishing ability. He finished Jamie Pickett with a knee. Dude's good, man. He's good. And Gregory Rodriguez, as I said, lack of fight IQ, can get KO'd. We've seen it multiple times. And doesn't necessarily have the best fight IQ or the best defense for that matter. He's a little, bit of a glass cannon. But anyways, moving up the card to Chris Weidman and Brad Tavares. All right, dude. Another underdog pick, my guys. I'm going with Chris Weidman here. I don't know why, but I just have this feeling, man. Brad Tavares has not been looking great as of late, even in some of his victories. And I know that he's had to fight some pretty tough guys, but his last time out, I believe he was a favorite also against a guy who I think may have even been fucking older than him. And I can't remember exactly how that fight went. I think he got TKO'd, or maybe he got submitted after getting hurt on the feet. Either way, dude, I think Chris Weidman is going to wrestle fuck homeboy and beat him up on the ground. And if a submission presents itself, like an arm triangle or something along those lines, a top game submission that you see, top pressure type shit, I think Weidman locks it up. I just don't think Tavares is all that good anymore. He's not as old as Chris Weidman, but he is very long in the tooth, long in his career, taken a ton of damage, been finished by a ton of guys. As long as Chris Weidman does not go out there and throw the hardest leg kick he can possibly conjure up, then I think we should be fine. I don't think that leg's going to break again. And that's his rear leg, so that would be the leg that he'd be throwing kicks with for the most part. He doesn't necessarily throw a whole lot of front leg kicks because he's not necessarily a striker. And Brad Tavares just doesn't seem to be like amazing at anything anymore. Do you know what I mean? So, and we've seen him be a little bit chinny in the past also, or not even chinny, but he's finishable. And so I think Weidman, who I don't think his coaches, Ray Longo and guys, I don't think these guys are going to be letting him go out there if they're they are obviously slightly concerned for him, but if they truly thought something horrible was going to happen, I don't know that they would let him go out there. I just think he's going to take Tavares down, do what he wants to him. Chris Weidman's got a very good top game, and that'll be that. He's a pretty big underdog as of right now. Brad Tavares is minus 270, so we will see. But I am going with the goddamn underdog in Chris Weidman, okay? And that would be inspirational as fucking all get out. That was the worst leg break we have ever seen in the UFC. And guys typically don't come back from that, right? Anderson Silva, I don't even know if he won a fight after that. The one decision against Derek Brunson, which was iffy, there might have been one more squeezed in there somewhere, but dude lost a ton in a row after coming back from that. It's a brutal fucking injury. However, medical science is probably a lot better today. Chris Weidman's leg probably had to undergo a couple more surgeries than what Anderson's did, because Weidman's was sticking out the back of his leg, right? Whereas Anderson's was not. Connor's was not. Connor's almost popped out, but it didn't. Weidman's broke through his fucking calf, which is disgusting. But I think he's going to be able to get the job done. He is, you know, I admire the confidence and the belief in himself that he's going to be a world champion or fighter of the year and all this stuff. I don't know about all that, but I do think he gets the job done tomorrow night. Now, moving up the card, this is the first fight on the main card. Marlon Chito Vera versus Pedro Munhoz. Fuck, dude. I really like Chito. I think dude's fucking wicked. He's funny. I love the way he says fuck. I love the way he says Aljo, because the J's are Y, so he's like Alio. Man, I don't want him to fucking lose this one, but I just have a feeling. Again, he's like a 2-1 favorite, right? It says minus 198. That's a random number. But I think that he's just not active enough, man. And I mean, maybe he's learned his lesson, but he said that like the Corey Sandhagen fight was, you know, he had to text the boss and apologize for that and all that shit, and that's not going to happen again. But here's the thing, dude. It wasn't just that fucking fight. It was every fight. He was just able to find the finish in those other fights. He just wasn't able to find that against Corey Sandhagen. But I mean, Frankie Edgar was beating him on his way to a decision victory against Marlon Chito Vera. Dominic Cruz was outstriking him numerically in their fight against Chito Vera. He would just find one shot per round that would do enough damage to drop Cruz and then maybe steal the round. Rob Font, same sort of thing, dude. Rob Font outstruck him by a lot. But Marlon Chito Vera's shots had more pop. He hit him with crazy shit, hook kicks, whatever else. Pedro Munhoz is damn near unfucking finishable, dude. The guy is an absolute zombie, okay? Zombie. He's literally never been finished. And Chito's just not active enough for me, man. Like, Pedro Munhoz is very active. I think he's going to be on his bike, moving laterally around the octagon as much as he possibly can, chopping away at Chito's legs, and when he feels that he's got an opening, he might rush in for a couple of punches. He's got a very, very, very short reach, unironically T-Rex arms. And Marlon Chito Vera, dude, has to find a shot that hurts him, which is fucking hard to do. Pedro Munhoz is a savage. Like, he went toe-to-toe with Cody Garbrandt in the pocket, which I know the memes about Cody, like, dude's got no chin left on him whatsoever, but he hits hard as fuck. And Pedro Munhoz just stood in there with him, hands down, swinging hooks, and he came out the other side the winner. Now, there was a clash of heads involved, but still, his head took a hit too. You know what I mean? He's a fucking zombie. He's also one of these guys, like Jan Blachowicz, who's willing to go shin to shin with you. Like, in his fight versus Jimmy Rivera, who is kind of known for a low calf kick type shit, like he's a Muay Thai fighter, Pedro Munhoz was just going shin to shin with, didn't give a fuck, until Jimmy Rivera ultimately stopped throwing kicks because his shit was damaged. You know what I mean? And everybody thought Pedro Munhoz might have been on his way out, and then he comes out there and has an incredible fight with Chris Gutierrez, who had a ton of hype on him, looks extremely good. He's very good at being the hammer. Pedro Munhoz made that shit a dogfight and came out the victor. Now, that was a very, very, very close fight. Could have gone either way. The striking numbers were damn near even. But, you know, Pedro Munhoz is just more active than Chito. And it's shitty, man, because I want Chito to win. But I'm going to pick Pedro Munhoz to get the job done by decision. I think he's going to be able to outpoint him. And he sure as shit, dude, you could put Dom Chin's whatever is left, my bad, of Dominic Cruz's chin, whatever is left of Frankie Edgar's chin, which is not much, whatever is left of Rob Font's chin, combine them together, Pedro Munhoz still has a better chin. So I don't know that Chito's going to be able to find a shot that fucking puts him away, dude. And even when he would hurt Rob Font in that fight, which ultimately went to decision, there were like 3 or 4 different occasions where he could have absolutely finished the fight. But because he's so chill and laid back, Okay, he didn't jump on him the way that you would expect someone to do, especially against a guy like Rob Font, where you don't really have to be concerned about his grappling. You don't really have to be concerned about him locking up a sub on you while he's fucking hurt. And Cheeto kind of would just let it go to the next round, which was so strange to me. Like, you act that way on the feet, but once you've hurt the motherfucker, go get him. But he wouldn't. So I'm gonna go with Pedro Munhoz here to get the job done by decision. I do think though that I'll just be less disappointed this way if Cheeto loses, because I know that I'll have gotten the pick right. Pedro Munhoz by decision, moving up the card 2. Dude, I'm actually hype for this fucking fight. Damone Blackshear versus Mario Bautista. Holy shit. Okay, Mario Bautista minus 300. Man, I am rooting for Damone Blackshear here. After that twister just last week, if he were to come in and get a victory tomorrow night, he would break Khamzat Chimaev's record for the 2 fastest consecutive wins, right? Khamzat Chimaev did it in 10 days. Damone Blackshear will be doing it in 7 if he is able to get the job done. However, this is a very, very, very fucking tough matchup for essentially anybody. Mario Bautista is very good, okay? Very, very good. He's only got 2 losses on his record. One of them is to Corey Sandhagen, who's Corey fucking Sandhagen. The other one's a little iffy. It was to Trevin Jones, but we've actually seen a couple. Trevin Jones is kind of like the Michael Johnson of the fucking division. He's somehow able to tag dudes that he shouldn't be tagging, and he's got a lot of power. So when he does, it's a problem. This is going to be an incredible grappling match, in my opinion, right? Most of Mario Bautista's finishes come by way of submission. Same with Damone Blackshear. Now, in my opinion, Mario Bautista has a clear advantage on the feet. So, if Damone Blackshear is unable to get him down, I do think it'll cause a problem for him. I don't know that he's going to be able to hang on the feet with Mario Bautista. And it's going to be a lot harder to lock up a submission, let alone a fucking twister, on a guy like Mario Bautista, who has a ton of submissions himself on his record. He is very good, man. So, look, I'm going to be going with Mario Bautista here to get the job done by TKO. But I will say I'm rooting for Damone Blackshear to get that shit done because, dude, twisters are hard to pull off. And a lot of guys won't even bother going for it in a fight because there's so many steps to that submission that it gives your opponent so many opportunities to, like, get out of it. And then you could end up in a disadvantageous position. And now all of a sudden you're the one on the bottom getting the fucking shit beat out of you. Do you know what I mean? So to go for it is cool. To get it is even cooler. I do hope he gets the job done because I think that would be incredible. But I'm gonna go with Mario Bautista to get the job done by TKO. 2 weight cuts in 2 weeks. That's tough. Whereas Khamzat Chimaev kind of got a break there. He fought one guy at 170 and then fought another guy at 185. So he didn't really have to have 2 brutal weight cuts. And Damone Blackshear looks very short for some reason, but he's actually taller than Mario Bautista. So I don't know what the reaches look like. I can't remember that off the top of my head. He's just not very good on the feet. Even the dude that he beat last week had tagged him on the feet a couple of times before Damone Blackshear ultimately found the takedown. However, I'm still going on about this. I've already told you guys who the fuck I'm picking. Mario Bautista was training for Cody Garbrandt up until last week. Do you know what I mean? Cody Garbrandt, in his last fight, did go for a couple takedowns, but didn't do a whole lot with them. So I don't know if Mario Bautista was really planning and, like drilling takedown defense because he's probably very confident in his submission game had Cody Garbrandt gotten him to the mat. So, ultimately, as I said, Mario Bautista, TKO. Hope Damone Blackshear gets it done because that would be fucking amazing. Okay, moving up the card 2. Neil Magny versus Ian Machado Garry. The fight that everybody is waiting up until 5 a.m. for, not the main event, not the co-main event. I am going to be going with Ian Garry. I want to point something out. I was just listening to the press conference a little bit before I started filming this, okay? He called Neil Magny old when his wife is, how do they put it, 40 years of age. His wife is 40 years of age, 15 years older than him, and he called Neil Magny old. Okay, that's a weird one. Either way, look, dude. I've seen this in every fucking comment section of any questionable parenting that's been put online. It seems to be the case, and I'm not being a fucking dick here. I'm not being racist, okay? Black parents seem to just whoop their children. That is what it is. If you see a video, a reel on Instagram, or a fucking short on YouTube of some sort of questionable parenting where the discipline might seem a little over the top, and you go to the comment sections, the only people defending it are black accounts. Okay, it is what it is, man. And look, maybe you guys think it works. Maybe it does. There's some statistics out there that might say otherwise, and that's all I'm gonna say. But that was pretty funny what Ian Garry was doing at the press conference. Now, I will be honest, it was a little virtue signaling, okay, because he was getting, like, legitimately upset about it. I don't actually think Neil Magny whips his fucking 3-year-old, because that would be completely and totally fucking pointless, because their brain don't process shit that way. But, hey, look, Mike, I'll tell you this, dude. My 2 kids, 11 and 7, extremely well behaved, especially in public. And I've never hit either of them in my life. I'll just say that. So, Neil Magny, I don't know if he actually hits his kids. I think the dude just might fucking suck on a microphone. But the way that Ian Garry was going at him at the press conference was pretty funny. Neil Magny couldn't even speak. And he looked extremely, extremely, extremely frustrated. I'm going with Ian Garry by TKO. Okay. Neil Magny does not have enough pop on his shots, in my opinion, to kind of keep Ian Garry off of him, pardon me. Neil Magny's usually a lot longer than the guys that he's facing, whereas he might have a bit of a reach advantage over Ian Garry, but Ian Garry is also a very tall, long fella, okay? And he just, if it was Jeff Neal, man, this would be a completely different story. If the odds were this against Jeff Neal, I would be picking Jeff Neal fucking all day, dude. Ian Garry's a minus 500. Do you know what I mean? Jeff Neal's got a lot of pop on his shots. Neil Magny, not so much. So, Neil Magny could potentially come in here, make it a dogfight, clinching him up nonstop, all that shit. But Ian Garry's got a lot of weapons that he's going to have to get through in order to get that close to him. Now, Neil Magny's got some longer weapons of his own. He's got the front kicks up the middle, shit like this. But I just don't think it's going to be enough, man. I think Ian Garry's going to... We might potentially see another head kick. Now, Neil Magny is going to be a little bit trickier to hit than Daniel Rodriguez, because he's a little longer, but I do think Ian Garry gets the job done by TKO. If this was Jeff Neal, this would be a totally different story, in my opinion, man. Jeff Neal's tough as fuck and hits hard as fuck, and I might have even picked Jeff Neal had he been a sizable underdog, but I'm going with Ian Garry to get the job done. Dude's got no easy matchups ahead of him, I'll say that much. Moving up the card to Zhang Weili versus Amanda Lemos. Usually I spend a lot of time on the co-main and the main event. I don't know how much time I got to spend on this one, man. No brainer for me. The odds aren't listed on the UFC's website, so I don't actually know them offhand. I would imagine Zhang Weili is a sizable favorite, as she should be. She is so fucking good, dude. And she is one of the only women at the high level who is consistently fun to watch. She always goes out there to entertain. She's never trying to just control a chick. She always wants to do fucking damage, right? She always trying to get the finish. She's a savage. Savage. Now, Amanda Lemos does hit hard. She could potentially, find Zhang Weili's chin. And we've seen it get tagged before with that head kick from Rose Namajunas. But Amanda Lemos does not have that kind of dexterity. She is not throwing up a lead leg round kick like that, hitting Zhang Weili. I think Zhang Weili is going to be able to essentially do whatever the fuck she wants to her. I think she's going to take her down. I think she's going to smash her on the ground and then possibly lock up another submission similar to the way she did against Carla Esparza relatively early on, I would imagine, first 2 rounds. Amanda Lemos won't be much of a threat after that, and I think Zhang Weili gets it done with relative ease. But anyways, moving up the card, main event, dude. Sean O'Malley. Aljamain Sterling, pardon me, for Sean O'Malley. Dude, I'm going with Aljamain Sterling, and I just think he's going to be too much. I think he's going to be able to, get him. He body locks dudes. He doesn't necessarily shoot for doubles, so I don't think Sean O'Malley's going to be able to, time a knee on an entry or anything like that. Aljo does not, ever since the Marlon Moraes KO, Aljo doesn't really shoot that way. He goes for body locks. He finds your back standing, drags you down, so fucking strong on the mat, so strong with his legs, so good at keeping those hooks in. Even if he gets high on your back, he's got submissions from there also, so shaking him off is also dangerous. I will say this though, right? We have seen bigger upsets in UFC history, and as somebody in my chat a very long time ago pointed out, very wisely I might add, sometimes the universe just does weird shit. And I can't remember who it was, so I apologize for that. It might have been Toad, it might have been somebody else, but sometimes the universe just does weird shit, right? And that could potentially happen here, man. Sean O'Malley does have it. Like, he's got no. It's not like he doesn't have no fucking chance, dude. Aljamain Sterling's not even that big of a favorite. We have seen way bigger upsets. In fact, Matt Serra, one of Aljamain Sterling's longtime coaches, and I believe his jiu-jitsu coach, you know, against George St. Pierre. George St. Pierre was a minus 1,300 in that fight, and Matt Serra found the finish. You know what I mean? Juliana Pena versus Amanda Nunes the first time around. She was Amanda Nunes was minus 1,050. Do you know what I mean? Ronda Rousey, Holly Holm, same shit. These are huge odds, and fucking, it could happen, dude. Matt Serra is a way worse striker than Sean O'Malley by a fucking landslide, and he was able to find George St. Pierre's chin. Now that was early on in George St. Pierre's career, and he was a little more reckless, would take a little bit more risks when he fought, and he came back and obviously beat the shit out of Matt Serra, but it could fucking happen, man. It could. It really could. Sean O'Malley could find a shot. Now, I don't think it's going to happen. I think Aljo is able to take him down off of a body lock. I think he's going to be able to flatten him out, beat the fuck out of him. And whether or not O'Malley exposes his chin, I don't know that it's going to matter a whole lot. I know a lot of people are not going to want to hear this, but it is the most likely outcome. You know what I mean? Sean O'Malley hasn't really fought any top-level grappler. And while Petr Yan was able to take Aljamain Sterling down like 17 times in their first fight, he never once like tried to control him. And he's a lot smaller than Aljamain Sterling. Do you know what I mean? Petr Yan's listed as 5'7", and Aljamain Sterling's listed as 5'7". That's bullshit. Like, when Sean O'Malley said that Petr Yan's probably 5'5", he was probably right. But another thing is that when Aljamain Sterling and Sean O'Malley are standing in the cage together, and Sean O'Malley has shoes on, okay, and Aljo is flat foot in the octagon after a fight, they're only a couple inches apart. So I don't know that Sean O'Malley's really 5'11" either. Okay, so there's that. Sean O'Malley's got reach on him, which not by much, right? But it is one of the only guys that Aljamain Sterling has ever faced that has a longer reach than him. I just don't think Sean O'Malley's going to be able to get it done. I know that everybody would go fucking crazy if he did. I know that that's what a lot of people want. I, for one, don't really like Sean O'Malley. He's kind of a cuck. Now, I don't hate him, as I said in my videos previously to this, but I don't really like him all that much, right? I don't hate him, but I don't love him. It's a little in between, but leaning towards dislike. And I also want to say this, dude. He fucking sucks on the mic. If you're going to have a pay-per-view star, knockouts are not enough. The reason Conor McGregor was such a pay-per-view star is because the dude could speak. Sean O'Malley seems to have issues with that on the mic. Why are you asking where Cody Garbrandt is when, you know what I mean? Shit talk your opponent. Aljamain Sterling was way more hype at that press conference. And something else I want to point out, I saw the weigh-ins just before I started filming this also. When Aljamain Sterling said, "Talk like a man, you sound dehydrated," right? Sean O'Malley's been talking about how Aljo's weight cut's going to be a problem, because it always is what he says. He said this on Ariel Helwani's last week, if I'm not mistaken. When he said that, I thought, bro, you too, though. You know what I mean? You too. Since when ever has Sean O'Malley looked good on the scales? Do you know what I mean? He tends to look like a he looks like a worn out old red light district whore, okay? Every time. He looked like shit today. Aljo looked very sucked in also, but it's not like he's got an easy weight cut. The dude's big, man. He fills out. I know he's lankier and, you know, a little skinnier looking. He doesn't have a whole lot of muscle definition, but he's not small. It's not like it's an easy weight cut for him. So both of these guys Probably had a tough weight cut. Sean O'Malley against Petr Yan, he looked horrible, and he had red hair too. Petr Yan called him a clown whore or something. I can't remember what he called him, but either way, dude. The only funny thing that Sean O'Malley said during that press conference was he called Aljamain Poop Stains Sterling, which I was like, okay. I mean, you could have came up with something better than that, but it was kind of funny, I guess. But yeah, man, I don't know. I don't think Sean O'Malley's able to get it done, and I think Aljamain Sterling's either gonna sub him or TKO him, because I think that the guys Aljo has been fighting, while they're not the same body type as Sean O'Malley, they are way better grapplers, undeniably. Do you know what I mean? And Petr Yan gave his back to Aljo twice, 3 times even, in their second fight. And it's because people are in such a fucking panic to get away from him, because they know if he wraps you up, that's it. And if I was to bet who would get submitted faster against Aljamain Sterling, Petr Yan and Sean O'Malley, I think I would have to go with Sean O'Malley getting sub faster. Like, I just, we don't really know, because we haven't been able to see a whole lot of grappling from him. As I said, he hasn't fought really any fucking top flight grappler. He's just, I don't know, man. Look, he can do damage. He damaged Petr Yan, but Petr Yan was much more willing to hang out on the feet with Sean O'Malley, and he also had a ton of success in that fight with a way smaller reach, being way shorter. Aljamain Sterling, I don't think is going to do that a whole lot. I think he will. I think it'll look similar to the first Petr Yan fight, but I don't think is reckless. So in the first Petr Yan fight, Aljamain Sterling was the one doing the pressuring, like, relentlessly, and he gassed himself out for it, and he was throwing crazy shit nonstop. The output in the first round was insane. Okay. In the second fight, however, Petr Yan pressured him, and I think because Petr Yan wanted to prove a point, like, I'm gonna go get this fucking dude out of there. You know what I mean? Aljo let him. Aljo circled around the cage, tapping him with shots, leg kicks, body kicks, like front kicks up the middle, shit like this. And Aljamain Sterling doesn't have to worry about, Aljamain Sterling can throw whatever he wants without really having to be worried about getting taken down. Like, even if Sean O'Malley's capable of taking him down, I don't know that Aljamain Sterling would be all that upset. You know what I mean? Whereas Sean O'Malley is going to be slightly limited in what he can throw. I would imagine he's going to blast out a few head kicks because, you have to address those right now. You can't really catch them. You can. Very dangerous. You usually want to get 2 hands up there. You don't want to be trying to fucking, you know what I mean? Low leg kicks, right? Nothing above the knee. And body kicks, I would imagine, are going to be off limits unless there is a massive opening that he feels he can sneak one in there. Because otherwise, Aljo's going to grab that shit, run him back, dump him, get on top, wrap him up, and, I feel like that's going to be it. There's no way Sean O'Malley is going to be strong enough. Even if Sean O'Malley has the skills that are somewhat comparable to Aljamain Sterling on the ground, hypothetically, obviously, he doesn't have the strength to go along with it. Like, that's when size and strength actually matters. You know what I mean? When you're of equal skill level. So, yeah, man. I think Aljo gets him out of there. I think he gets him out of there relatively early also. And while Sean O'Malley showed quite a bit of grit in his fight versus Petr Yan, every time I imagine him getting, hurt is Marlon Chito Vera with that calf kick, right? Which essentially just caused his foot to go numb, and he was, wailing on the ground as if he had just snapped his leg. Chris Weidman, Conor McGregor, and Anderson Silva were all less loud than Sean O'Malley was when he got drop foot, which is your foot goes numb. Do you know what I mean? The kick initially hurts, but there was nothing wrong with your foot, my guy. It was asleep, and he got carried out on a stretcher for it. So, and I know Aljo's done whatever, the shit with the fucking title, but whatever, man. Aljamain gets it done, in my opinion. Would it be insane, phenomenal, very exciting if Sean O'Malley got it done? Yeah, I just don't think it's going to happen. Anyways, dude, that's my thoughts on UFC 292. Those are all of my picks for UFC 292. I can't fucking wait. I'll put out a video in the morning that isn't really UFC 292 related, just for some shits and gigs, okay? A little bit of entertainment before the pay-per-view starts. Like and subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it. I will see you at the next one. Bye-bye.